Good evening to one all present here. I welcome you all to the second session of lecture series PRAGNAVARADHI. Today we have Vaidya Shushma, and ma'am will be continuing with her second session on CHARAKA Samhita SUTRASTHANA, second chapter and fourth chapter. We are handing over to the session to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So yesterday in the session, we have dealt about the first chapter of Sutrasthana and the 12th chapter of Sutrasthana simultaneously. Similarly, today also we will be dealing with two different chapters, that is second chapter and the fourth chapter. Second chapter being Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya and the fourth chapter being Sadvirechanasatashritiyam adhyaya. So, next slide please. Next. So the first chapter which we'll be dealing is Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya. Before we start, I would like to request all of you to hold your Charaka Samhita with you so that you can just follow the shlokas and mark wherever it is required. So the contents of the chapter. Sorry, the previous slide, please. Yeah. So introduction to the chapter. Whenever we see the chapter names, whichever is written in Charaka Samhita or any Samhitas as such, what we understand is the chapter name. Chapter name indicates whatever is written majorly in the whole chapter and also the first thing whichever is explained in the chapter. Here when we see, the title is given as Apamargatanduliyam adhyayam. But when we see the first shloka, it says Apamargasya bijani. There is a difference here. Why has the author put it as Apamargatanduliya instead of putting it Apamarga Bijiya Adhyaya? Is the question, first thing. So the answer would be Apamargatanduliya is written because the author wants to say that the Apamarga Bija, whatever we use in the yoga, has to be de-seeded. I mean, the husk has to be taken out. The outer covering of the seed has to be taken out and then used. So it is addressed to as Apamarga Tanduliya Adhyaya and not Apamarga Bijiya. If it was Apamarga Bijiya, then we would have understood as the whole Bija of the Apamarga. But it's not like that. He wants us to take out the outer husk of the seed and then use the Apamarga, which is Apamarga Bija, which does not have the outer coating. That is what he refers to, and that is why the chapter name is called Apamarga Tanduliya Adhyaya. Next point is narration format chapter. The whole chapter comes in the narration format. There is no question answer. There is no rishi names involved in this. It is all like the guru is telling and the shishya is listening. The guru is just narrating the whole explanation here. Next point is important shlokas for your RGHS exam and also for AIAPGT probable question or the probable shloka which could be quoted is shloka number 15, 16 and 36. See, the point is you can by heart all the shlokas if possible. But if not possible, these three are the major important shlokas that you have to by heart because whenever the question is asked for any topic, if the shloka is useful, if you write the shloka, then you can write it. So that is why these three shlokas are important, shloka number 15, 16 and 36. And the last point to the introduction of the chapter is the Tantra Yuktis which are used. Whenever we study any Samhita, we have to understand the Tantra Yukti, and if we do not understand Tantra Yukti, there is no point in studying Samhita at all. This Tantra Yukti is explained in the last chapter of the whole Charaka Samhita, which is the Uttarabasti. Sorry, it is in the last chapter, Kalpasthana, last chapter, 8th chapter of Kalpasthana, which explains the last very few slokas, explains about Tantra Yukti. In this chapter, there are two Tantra Yuktis which are used. One is Upadesha and the other one is Samuchaya. What is Upadesha? Upadesho Nama Aptanushasanam. Okay, before explaining what is Upadesha and Samuchaya, let me explain to you what is Tantra Yukti. See, Tantra Yukti means any Tantra which has to be read will have it, which has to be written, will have its own rules and regulations to write. So the writer has already given us the Charaka Samhita. The Tantra is already there with us. When we have to comprehend it and when we have to decipher the different topics explained here, what we have to use is the same Tantra Yukti which the author has used, and that is the list of Tantra Yukti what we have. So here in this chapter, we see Upadesha and Samuchaya. Upadesho Nama Aptanushasanam. Upadesha means there is some Apta, there is a person, Apta. Aptaha Shishta Vibuddhaste Tesham Vakyam Asamshyam is what Padartha Vijnana says. You can just go back to the reference of the definition of Apta and understand what is Apta first. Apta is some person who does not have any manodoshas, who does not have any sharirika doshas, who is just trustable. So the words which are told by this Apta is called Upadesha. That is used here because Atreya Maharshi is our Apta here because he is the one who is telling us all of the explanation about Apamargatanduliyam and other Yavagus and whatever it is. So this Atreya Maharshi is our Apta now. We have to trust him. That is what Upadesha means. And then the next Tantra Yukti is Samuchaya. Samuchayo Nama Yadidam cha idam cha iti kritva vidhiyate. Samuchaya is can be grossly translated as just grouping. So what the author has done is he has grouped some of the drugs which in combination will give us some kind of result. It could be anything. In the next shlokas we see whatever Panchakarma Upayogi Dravya is what the next shloka says. So whatever the drugs are there, out of so many dravyas out in the world, the author has collected a few dravyas which have the similar quality and karma called, which are used in Panchakarma. So that is just grouping the dravyas. So he has made a group of drugs which are used in Panchakarma, which are used in Virechana, which are used in Vamana, which are used in Virechana, and which are beneficial in Sangrahana, which are beneficial in Vatatisara, Pittatisara, Kafatisara, Raktatisara, everything. There could be some repetitions of the dravyas. We do not say no, that is not contraindicated here. But the point is, the combination of those dravyas is important for us, and that combination is mentioned in this chapter. So when we see any shloka, we have to understand that this shloka, this point is explained by an Apta and it's trustable. We have to trust that. And the second thing is, whenever we see any groups mentioned, we have to understand that it's a group. Samuchaya. Samuchaya is used here. So next slide, please. Next, we'll understand the contents of the chapter before going in deeply. First one is Shiro Virechaka Dravyas, Vamanakaraka Dravyas, Virechaka Dravyas, Asthapana Basti Dravya, and Anuvasana Basti Dravya. Next, he says why is the necessity of Snehana and Suvedana, and then he tells he has told all of these dravyas, and then he says how yukti is very important in administering these dravyas and for a rogi. And then he says about different yavagus, definition, preparation of different yavagus, types of yavagu and peya, and at last he never fails to use the opportunity of telling the qualities of an uttama bhishak. So that has also been mentioned in the same chapter. Next slide, please. Okay. So the first point which is explained in this chapter, Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya, is Shiro Virechaka Dravya. Shiro Virechana is nothing but nasya, but in the form of Shodhana nasya. When the srotas of the Shiro Bhaga has to be cleansed, then we do Shodhana nasya. And when there has to be Brahmana, then we do Brahmana nasya. So different varieties, but here we concentrate on Shodhana Dravyas, that is Shiro Virechaka Dravya, which are used in Nasya Karma. He gives a list of Aushadha Dravyas which are useful for Shiro Virechana: Apamarga, Pippali, Maricha, Vidanga, Shigru, Sarshapa, Tumburu, Ajaji, so on. The first Dravya which is explained is Apamarga. You can see that it's highlighted in light green. Apamarga is the Shrestha Shiro Virechaka Dravya. So that is why it is mentioned at the first. That could be your AIAPGT question. So once he explains about all of these dravyas, He also gives us a brief introduction of where all these Shirovirechaka dravyas can be used in the form of Nasya. The indications are Gaurava, Shirashula, Pinasa, Ardhava Bhedaka, Krimi Vyadhi, Apasmara, Ghrananasha, and Prameha. The last indication is very important and we might always miss this. In Prameha, how Nasya is useful. We'll deal that when the situation comes, but this is a very important point in clinical practice. Whenever you want to practice, you will surely understand the importance of doing Nasya in a Prameha patient, because the Nidana, the Chikitsa, whatever is explained for Prameha is similar to that, and what we see in the clinical practice is also the same. So doing Nasya in a Prameha patient will give us lot of improvement in the initial days itself by correcting their Ahara, Vihara and Vichara. Next slide, please. So the first point was Shirovirechaka Dravya, and the next topic which is explained here is Vamana Dravya, whatever the medicines can be used in Vamana Karma. It is Madana, Madhuka, Nimba, Jimuta, Kritavedhana, Pippali, Kutaja, Ikshvaku, Ela, Dhamargava. These are the main ingredients which can be used in Vamana Karma. What happens when we use Vamana Dravyas in the Vamana Karma is, it could be in different stages of conducting Vamana Karma. It could be in the initial stage of, Snehapana. It could also be in the Doshatklesha day. It could also be like initially we give Akantha Purti Aushadhas. So even these medicines can also be processed into different formats, maybe in the form of Yavagu, maybe in the form of uh, any payasa kind, and then given to the patient. So this Vamana Dravya can be used at any stage of conducting Panchakarma. So Vamana Dravyas are listed here: Madana, Madhuka, Nimba, Jimuta, and so on. So the indications of using this Vamana Dravya is two options. One is Upasthita Shleshma Pitta, and the second option is Amashaya Ashrita Vyadhi. So the first indication he says is Upasthita Shleshma Pitta. This happens in so many conditions, and it also happens in Vasanta Ritu whenever there is already kapha vridhi and pitta sanchaya is already happening on its own in the natural way. That is also one condition. And there are so many conditions like thyroid patients, hypothyroidism patients, and prameha patients, and any other endocrine related issue patients. We will always observe that their kapha is deranged and their pitta is also deranged, and it's like just waiting to go out of the body because prakopa has happened so much. It is already too much in the body and it has to go. That is the condition where we can immediately give Vamana Dravya and we will be able to see very good result after Vamana. We will surely be able to see Pitanta Vamana once we clearly understand that the patient does have Upasthita Shleshma Pitta, and the moment you decide that and you give them any Vamana Dravya and conduct a beautiful Panchakarma of Vamana, you will be able to get lot of good results. And the second indication what Atreya Maharshi says is Amashaya Ashrita Vyadhi. Any Vyadhi which is related with Amashaya, the stomach or the gut or any correlation. Amashaya is just grossly correlated as stomach or the gastrium. Any diseases of Amashaya can be treated with Vamana. Very simple, but it's almost like one of my previous doctor used to say that doing a Vamana Karma it looks very simple, but it's almost like without opening up the body, we are trying to do surgery from inside. I clearly understand. Now, when I practice on my own, I clearly correlate with that. Amashaya can be cleansed with Vamana, and it seems to be very simple, but it's a very complicated Panchakarma. We will be able to deal with that in the further chapters of Charaka Samhita. But coming back to the point here, Vamana Dravyas are explained, Vamana Dravya indications are explained. Next slide, please. So Shiro Virechana is done. Vamana is done. And next point is Virechana. This Virechana, whenever we saw the first topic here, it was Shiro Virechana, and then we saw Vamana, and then we saw Virechana. This Virechana can happen in contextual wise, meaning keeps on changing. Virechana, whenever it is said in Shalakya, it is always considered as Shiro Virechana. And whenever it is dealt with any Vyadhi which is related with Amashaya, then it is also considered as Urdhva Virechana. And whenever the context is of Pakvashaya and other conditions, other below navel conditions, then it is related with Adho Virechana. So we have to understand that difference also whenever we learn about Virechaka Dravyas. It is very, very important to understand that minute difference and the contextual meaning of the word Virechana. But here, Virechaka Dravya is absolutely the Adho Virechana, which is like inducing loose motions to the patient. So Virechaka Dravyas, there are very few but very strong. Trivrit, Trifala, Danti, Nilini, Saptala, Vacha, Kampilaka, and Gavakshi. The Virechaka Dravyas, whenever we see it, is always either in the form of powders or in the form of lehams or in the form of tablets or however it is. They are very small, but they have very major importance in letting go of the Pitta and Vata dosha from the Adhomarga. And then there is also a few drugs, Shirini, Udakirya, Pilu, Aragvadha, Draksha, Dravanti, and Nichila. This Virechaka Dravyas, it depends on the usage of the Bhisha that we'll see later. I'll come to that later. So this Virechaka Dravya indications are Pakvashaya Gata doshas. Any issues that is related with Pakvashaya, maybe about the digestion, maybe about expelling the toxins, maybe about absorption of the food particles, or maybe about the disintegration of the food particles, or whatever it is. Pakvashaya Gata dosha, anything you see related with Pakvashaya, after it passes through the stomach and once it enters into the intestine, from there, if we are able to see any disease's origin, then it's called Pakvashagata dosha, Pakvashagata vyadhi. In all those conditions, we will be able to use this Virechaka Dravyas and find out very good improvements. Next slide, please. Next, we have Asthapana Basti. Asthapana Basti and Anuvasana Basti, that is explained later. This Asthapana Basti, you might have already known that there are two types of bastis which are given through the rectal route, that is Asthapana Basti and Anuvasana Basti. Asthapana Basti is where we use the Kashaya format, and Anuvasana Basti is where we take the base of any sneha and then administer it through the rectal area. So Asthapana Basti is majorly with Kashaya. It has many ingredients which can be used for preparing the Kashaya, like for example, Patala, Agnimantha, Bilva, Shionaka. I mean to say the Dashamulas and Punarnava, Yava, Kulatha, Kola, Guduchi, Madana, Palasha, Katrina. And at last, you see there are 2 points, Sneha and Lavana. These two are very important in while preparing Asthapana Basti. Just Kashaya will not work because we are not willing to have Vata Prakopa, because Kashaya is always Vata Pradhana Dravya. It will always induce Vata Vridhi in the body. So there is already some Vata impairment in the body, and that is why you have opted to give the patient with Basti. We know that. And when the Kashaya is given, up to a certain level, it will do Vata Prashamana. But after the threshold reaches and it crosses the threshold, it also causes again impairment of which we really do not want in the treatment process. So to tackle that kind of adverse effects, there is utilization of Sneha and Lavana. This is very, very important when you are preparing Asthapana Basti. And also, this is the major point which is missed by the students when they write the 2 mark question about Asthapana Basti and Anuvasana Basti. That is very important. Sneha and Lavana utilization in Asthapana Basti. Anuvasana Basti, anyways, we are using Sneha. There is no utilization of any Kashaya Dravya there. But in Asthapana Basti, also there is utilization of Sneha and Lavana. This is the very important point that you have to remember. So the indications of Asthapana Basti is Udavarta and Vibandha. These are the very gross or the briefest indication which can be given for Basti, because we will be able to read about Basti in the few next chapters. The author has mentioned only 2 indications, Udavarta and Vibandha. Next slide, please. Okay, the heading is wrong here. It is mentioned as Shiro Virechika Dravya, but it had to be Anuvasana Basti Dravya. The same Vatahara Dravyas, as mentioned for Asthapana Basti, is to be used for Anuvasana Basti also, with proper processing, with Ghrita or any other Sneha. Vasa, Majja or Taila or Ghrita, anything can be used, anything can be processed with the same Vatahara Dravyas which are mentioned in the previous slides of Asthapana Basti. Process the same thing and then utilize it for Anuvasana Basti, because anyways we are targeting for Vata itself. There is also Vatahara Dravya, we also have Sneha. It is a perfect combination of medicine which can be used for any Vata Pradhana Vyadhis. Next concept is the most important point here when it comes to Panchakarma and when it comes to practical treatments of Panchakarma. When you sit in the clinic and start practicing, we clearly forget this Snehana and Svedana necessity when you have to do any kind of Panchakarma. तानि उपस्थितदोषाणां स्नेहस्वेदोपपादनैः पञ्चकर्माणि कुर्वीत मात्रा कालौ विचारयन्. Highlight this maybe like 10 times on your book and just scribble it anywhere possible. Matra kalau vicharayan. Panchakarmani kurvita matra kalau vicharayan. Very, very important point. Whenever they ask you about any question related to Snehana and Svedana, you just can directly write the shloka and gain very good marks. This is that kind of one shloka, because I told you, no, it is 15, 16 and the other 36th shloka, which is very important. This is the 15th shloka. Tani upasthita doshanam sneha svedopapadanihi panchakarmani kurvita matra kalau vicharayan. So there is a patient who comes to you and he already has upasthita dosha, like the doshas are already in the place where it can be expelled out. It is already waiting to be expelled out. In that patient, you immediately do Snehana and Svedana. Use your Yukti and consider about Matra and Kala and immediately perform Panchakarma. And then you will be able to see beautiful results in the patient. And before utilizing any Yukti or any Aushadhas mentioned here, the next sloka gives you a caution. Yukti in administering Dravya. Matra Kala Shreya Yuktihi Siddhir Yuktau Pratisthita Tishtatyupari Yuktigno Dravya Jnanavatam Sada. The author says whenever you utilize any aushadhi, whenever you prepare siddhi, whenever you prepare any aushadhi, you have to consider matra and kala. Matra kala shraya yuktihi. You have to consider matra and kala and then start preparing your aushadhi. You prepare the aushadhi siddha and then keep it ready. All of these, when you prepare utilizing all of this matra, kala and yukti, the dravya is always the best. It will give you the best results, is what the author wants to say. So whenever there is a patient who comes to you with upasthita dosha, you'll be able to see so many symptoms. That upasthita dosha lakshanas also we get in the future chapters. You just you start ticking the boxes of upasthita dosha lakshanas and you understand what panchakarma is required for the patient. Immediately perform snehana and svedana immediately in like about 5 or 6 days or 7 days, and then use your matra and kala and yukti prepare the medicines or get any prepared medicines authentically and then perform Panchakarma to see the best results in the patient. Next slide, please. So once we perform Panchakarma, we do understand that the Agni will go really low to get that back into the normal level, to get that into the optimum level, optimum functioning, Agni optimum functioning. We do something called Samsarjana Krama. Samsarjana Krama is followed after completing the Panchakarma. It is not Samsarjana Karma, but it is Samsarjana Krama because you follow it in order. In that Samsarjana Krama, there is a mention of Yavagu. That is what is going to be explained in the later part. Yavagu, there are about 28 types of Yavagu and Peya which are explained in the same chapter here. We will see one by one and concentrate on major Yavagus only. So Yavagu, what is Yavagu? This explanation is not given in the original Charaka Samhita, but it is given in Brahman and Tripathi Hindi commentary. I have just mentioned it here. Siktakai rahito mandaha peya siktha samanvita Yavagur bahu siktha asyad vilepi viraladrava. This is the definition of Yavagu. Siktakaihi rahito mandaha. Sikta means rice. So you put the water in the ratio of 16 and rice in the ratio of 1. 16:1 water and rice ratio. You start boiling. Once you start boiling, the rice will become completely cooked. And at that point, if you just take it off the stove, cool it, and add with required amount of prakshepaka dravyas, and then if you give to have, then that is called manda. Water part without the boiled rice. You just filter out all the boiled rice in that and give only the water part. That is called manda. Sikta kaihi rahito mandaha. There is no sikta in that, and you're just giving the water part. That is manda, which is the lightest of all. And then there is, you keep boiling the same thing, and water again reduces a little more, and then you end up in a stage called peya. There is water part, and also there is little quantity of rice, but you cannot completely eat the rice there. Little quantity of rice is again taken off, but water part with a little more quantity of rice is given. That is called peya. And then you end up in a condition after completely boiling again. There is little water part with more rice. When you see the prepared item there, you will be able to see rice in more and water just floating just slightly above the rice level. That stage is called Yavagu. And then you again keep boiling and boiling and boiling. The water keeps evaporating. And then there is very little amount of water which you cannot see on the top layer of the rice there in the vessel. There is very less water which is just settled down in the lower part of the vessel. And at that condition, it is called Vilepi. So when you remember the Samsarjana Krama Shloka, it is Peyam Vilepim Akritam Kritam Cha Yusham Rasam Trinubhayam Tadhaikam. So Peya, Peyam and Vilepi. So Peya and Vilepi is the one which is mentioned in this particular shloka which I am quoting here. That is Peya and Vilepi. But in other references, you will be able to see different varieties of Samsarjana Kramas explained. And also, after every single explanation of any major concepts, we see that our Maharshis have always given us the liberty to utilize our Yukti. And considering the Roga Bala, Rogi Bala, Matra, and Kala, we are given complete freedom to utilize any kind of process or any kind of Bheshaja or Ahara or Aushadha. So this freedom can be taken here, and you can surely tell the patients when you're experimenting or when you want to experiment on yourself or when you want to experiment on your friends, you can surely have every of these Manda, Peya, Yavagu and Vilepi. Understand how much Agni it takes from your body to digest that, and then give your patients the same advice depending on your experience only, because there is no harm in trying Yavagu, right? It's only water, rice, boil. That's all. So next slide, please. So the first Yavagu which is mentioned is Shulaghini Yavagu, which is also known as Panchakola Yavagu, because we have Panchakolas here, Pipali, Pipali Mula, Chavya, Chitraka and Nagara. The quantities and the preparation of this is, quantity of every dravya, it all depends. And you read it in the Bhaishaja Kalpana. If there is anuktamana, then what amount do you have to be used? Either it is half of the major dravya, or 1/4 or 1/3 or whatever it is. You will see that in Bhaishaja Kalpana. Let us not go to that depth here. We are just understanding the ingredients in every Yavagu here. It is Pipali, Pipali Mula, Chavya, Chitraka and Nagara, known as Panchakola Yavagu. This is used to increase the Agni, which is decreased after any Panchakarma. After any Panchakarma, you just advise your patient to prepare Yavagu, sprinkle some Panchakola Churna, or Panchakola Churna can be also used while cooking the rice itself, and then use that in their daily food. So the Shulagni Avagu, it is also Shulahara. It is also beneficial when you have to increase the Agni after any Panchakarma. So next is Pachani Peya. See, this Pachani Peya can be used either for your Deepana Pachana also, and even the Shulagni Yavagu can also be used in Deepana Pachana procedure itself before Panchakarma, because it is anyways Deepana, it is increasing the Agni, it will help the patient to increase their Agni to the optimum level, so that Deepana Pachana is happening properly and we are able to give them Snehapana in the right amount, in the right quantity, and with the right expectation of Samyak Snigdha Lakshanas. So next, coming to Pachani Peya, you use Daditha, Bilva, Changeri, Takra, Dadima. So there is slight confusion between Dadima and the normal pomegranate we get in our excuse me. So Dadima, there is a little controversy, because either you get Dadima or you get pomegranate, and Dadima is clearly not a pomegranate. When you look into Rajanikhantu properly and the explanation about Dadima, whatever the pomegranate we get is not the actual Lakshanas, whatever is explained either in Rajanikhantu or in any other Dravyaguna Tantras or Dravyaguna Samhitas or treatises books. So there's a controversy, but still it can be substituted again. So Dadima is punica granatum is what it is what I have also put here. This Pachani Peya is Pachaka, Sangrahaka, and this is the only place where usage of Takra instead of Jala while preparing Yavagu is mentioned. It is like you prepare the Kashaya with Dadita, Bilva, Changeri, and Dadima, prepare a Takra, and you prepare Yavagu also, and then mix both of them. This is how the preparation goes here. Next slide, please. And then we have Grahini Peya, and we also have this Pitta Shleshmati Sara Nashaka Peya. See, the point of explaining every single Peya and Yavagu is to also, first thing is to use it after Panchakarma, and the second thing is you can also explain this as a diet restriction to any patient coming to you with these kind of symptoms into your practice, into your clinic. So whenever they have increased loose motions, they say I've got dysentery, I've got diarrhea, whatever it is, you consider the patient, you consider the mantra, you consider how it's happening, you consider the amshamsha kalpana of the doshas, you consider the complete samprapti of the disease, whatever is happening, and then you will be able to explain to them what particularly they have to use when they are preparing rice. That will also be an additional ingredient in the treatment protocol, because it is always said 3 kinds of treatment: Daiva Vyapashraya, Yukti Vyapashraya, and Sattvavachaya. Daiva Vyapashraya is some conditions it is not possible to use. We have Sattvavachaya Chikitsa may be related or may not be related in that particular patient. But Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa, it is Ahara, Vihara, and Vichara, which is explained. So you're already giving Ahara dietary restrictions properly, and then you're also explaining to them what has to be done, what should not be done, Vihara also, and you're also giving them Aushadhi, which in combination will give them better results, and then you will also get good returns accordingly. So Grahini Peya, Pitta Shleshmati Saranashaka Peya. Next slide, please. And then we have all Raktati Saranashaka Peya and Amati Saranashaka Peya, all are explained here. And then we also have Mutra Krishtanashaka Peya. This is one important thing which we have used in our this Mutra Krishtanashaka Peya. We have used it in our clinical practice, and we see that the results are way faster than any other treatments as such. Utilization of Shvadamshtra, Kantakari, and Fanita. Fanita, you'll have to source it authentically and use. If not, it's not going to be useful. But utilization of Shvadamshtra, that's Gokshara and Kantakari and Fanita, prepare a combination of this and give it to the patient. They can use it every day in their house. Prepare peya out of it, like put some rice, water, and this powder, mix up everything, boil it properly, get into the consistency of peya, prepare a proper peya, and have it every day, morning, afternoon, evening, whenever they feel hungry, and depending on the matra kala, whatever you advise to the patient. This gives you a wonderful results, which we have seen in the clinical practice. Next slide, please. And then we have Kriminashaka Yavagu. This Kriminashaka Yavagu can be useful in treating any pediatric cases also. And also, when we see Krimi in terms of skin conditions, in any Kushta conditions, skin conditions, if we are able to see any kind of Krimi there, then this is also the best Yavagu which can be prescribed, which consists of only 4 ingredients: Vidanga, Pipali Mula, Shigru, and Maricha. So this Kriminashaka Yavagu has to be prepared with Takra again and then mixed with Sharjakshara and Yavagu. So these 4 ingredients, prepare Takra out of it, prepare Yavagu, mix the Takra, Yavagu, and Sarjakshara, mix up everything and give it to the patient as Kriminashaka Yavagu. A better application of including these dravyas into their system, introducing these dravyas into their system along with the aushadha, whatever you are planning to give them. And then we also have this Pipasagni Yavagu and Vishagni Yavagu. Next slide, please. So there are multiple Yavagus which are mentioned here again. These are all in the same order which is mentioned in the Charaka Samhita, I mean the textbook. In the same order I have mentioned here. Brahmani Yavagu, controversial again because it has Varaha Niryuha, pork flesh juice extract. We do not know how legal it is now, how dharmika it is now and everything. But in this Brahmanand Tripathi Hindi commentary, there is an explanation that see this Brahmani Yavagu, it is explained with Varaha Niryuha. So the author himself explains, Dr. Brahmanand Tripathi explains that though it feels like very dharmika to speak about Varaha Niryuha utilization, and there is too much of things happening around, controversies happening around this Varaha, I mean the pork flesh, it is always the responsibility or the duty of a Vaidya to consider about treating the patient first and then anything else. So the author says being a Vaidya first is more important than being Dharmika or being affected by any of these controversies. This has been explained in Brahmanand Tripathi Hindi book here. So next one is Karshaniya Yavagu, and then you have Snehani Yavagu. This Snehani Yavagu can be your savior when the patient does not want to have Snehapana, cannot have Snehapana as it is. Use Tila, Lavana, Sarpi, mix up everything, prepare Yavagu, give it to them. It will be one thing, it will be tasty because or they have something to swallow properly. They have rice which they are used to have every single day. You prepare that only with tila, lavana, and sarpi, mix it up, and then give it to them. This is a wonderful savior if the patient does not want to have snehana as such. Next is Rukshani Yavagu. If you have given excessive Snehapana or if the patient already has excessive Snehana in their body, start using Rukshani Yavagu. And it is very simple. You just give the powder of Kusha, Amalaki, and Shyamaka. Ask them to prepare a Yavagu with utilizing all of these powders, and Rukshana happens automatically. And then you have Shwasakasanashaka Yavagu. Next slide, please. And then we have Pakvashyagata Vatahara Yavagu. We have Rechani Yavagu, Sangrahaki Yavagu. So many are there. I'll not be concentrating on the ingredients here because you already have it in your textbook. In the Samhitas, you can just refer that. But here, I would like to explain to you what is Rechana and Grahi. Rechana is Vipakvam Yad Apakvam Va Maladi Dravatvam Nayet Rechayatyapi Tagneyam Rechanam. So, there is constipation in a person. What happens is uh, if the bowels, either it is pakva or apakva, it is either vipakva or apakva, doesn't matter whatever it is. This medicine, any rechani dravya, whenever you give, no matter what is the pakvavastha or apakvavastha of the mala there, this mala will attain dravatva and it will just come out of the body. So it does not have anything to do with increasing the agni or nothing happens here with this rechana dravya. If there is any obstruction happening in the colon region or in the complete intestinal region, what happens is this will just get loosened up. This will get, it will attain dravatva. It will just flow out of the body. This can be utilized when the patient has complete vibandha and you do not have anything else to do, but you have to just let go of this obstruction, and it is just to clear the obstruction. That's all. You do not have anything after that, before that, nothing. So Rechana is that. Vipakvam yad apakvam va maladi dravatvam nayit rechayatyapi tagneyam rechanam. Sangrahaki is also there. So here what we have done in Rechana is there is an obstruction. We have given some liquidity to it and the motions have passed out. But in Sangrahiki, what has happened is there is already increased dravatva in the mala. What this Sangrahiki will do is it will do Deepana and Pachana, thereby increasing the Ushnatva of the body, and then Drava Shoshana happens due to this Ushnata which is produced by Deepana and Pachana. This is how the Grahi Aushadhi works. But Rechana did not work anything about Deepana Pachana. It did not care about anything. What it just did is cleared the obstruction, gave some liquidity to the mala, and it just pushed out. But this Sangrahaki, whenever there is a lot of liquidity in the body, what it does is it will actually increase the Deepana Pachana here. It is increasing the Deepana Pachana, it is producing Ushnata, and this increased Dravatva is whatever is there in the mala will get Shushka because of the Ushnata produced by increased Deepana and Pachana. That is how Grahi or the Sangrahiki Dravyas work. And Sangrahiki Avagu consists of Jambu, Amrasthi, and Amla Daditha Bilwa. Amla Daditha is Kapitha again. So this is the difference between Rechana and Grahi. What happens actually when you give Rechana Dravya and what happens when you actually give Grahi Dravyas. Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide, please? Yeah. So next is Bhedini Yavago. So here we understand about the Bhedana Karma. We understood Virechana Karma, and here it is Bhedana Karma. Both will cause increased or it will help in clearing out the obstruction, and it will help in Vibandha. But the action is what is important. What happens when you give Rechana Dravya and when you give Bhedana Dravya? Bhedana is an action where Maladikam Abadham Yad Abadham Va Pinditam Malaihi Bhitva Adha Pateti Yad Bhedanam. So there is a Pindita Mala because Maladi has become Abadha Mala or Abadha or Badha Mala, I mean Pakva or Apakva Mala. It has become Pindita. What this Bhedani Dravya does is it will disintegrate this. This Bhedani Dravya will not increase the Dravatva of the Mala. What it does is it will do Bhedana, it will powder it, or it will just disintegrate the Mala and help to be passed out of the body. So this is Bhedana. Rechana is it will increase the Dravatva of the Mala and then push out. But Bhedana, nothing. Either it is Badha or Abadha, whatever it is, the Pindita Mala will undergo disintegration and then just gets passed out of the body. This is called Bhedana Karma, and medicines which are used to prepare this Bhedani Yavagu is Kshara, Chitraka, Hingu and Amlavedasa. These four are very important to understand what is Bhedana. And then we have Vatanulomani Yavagu, which is absolutely required in post-Panchakarma sessions, because obviously when there is a completion of Panchakarma, once you complete Panchakarma, there is a slight amount of increased Vata in the body, and to do that Vata Shamana, we have to utilize any of these Yavagus, but Vatanulomana Yavagu is different. Abhaya, Pipalimula, Vishwa is what is used in Vatanulomani Yavagu. And then we have Ghrita Vyapatinashini and Taila Vyapatinashini Yavagu, which is utilized when you have done excessive snehana to the person. So you utilize this Ghrita Vyapatinashini Yavagu and you'll be able to recover back whatever the damage has done. Then we have the next Yavagu is Vishamajvara Nashini Yavagu. Utilize this when the person is suffering from Vishamajvara and you should be able to treat that patient easily. But again, same thing, what we saw in Brahmani Yavagu, same controversy happens here because there is Gavya Mamsarasa utilization. Considering all the factors, utilize the proper Aushadha Dravya and the Yavagu and prescribe it to the patient. Next slide, please. Next, we have Kantharoga Nashini Yavagu, Retomarga Rujapaha Yavagu, Vrishya Yavagu, Madaroga Nashini Yavagu, and Shudharoga Nashini Yavagu. So these things are, it all depends on how you will be utilizing this, in what condition you will be able to utilize this, and you should be able to treat the patient with proper utilization of this. Next slide, please. So this is the end of the chapter, and once we see Tatra Shloka, we have to understand that it's the end of the chapter. Tatra Shloka, he explains there are only two things which was explained here. One is the 28 types of Yavagu, and then Panchakarma Upayukta Bhaishajya. The first thing, whatever we saw about Shiro Virechana Dravya, Vamana Dravya, Virechaka Dravya, and Astapana Basti, Anuvasana Basti Dravyas, all of these things were explained in the whole chapter. And at last, as I told you, our Atreya Maharshi will never miss any opportunity to explain about the characteristics of a good physician. He always puts one or two shlokas of being a good physician in almost all of the chapters about giving the moral support or having a moral background, proper moral base to be a good physician. Here he says, Smritiman Hetu Yuktigno Jitatma Pratipattiman Bhishag Aushadha Samyogaischa Chikitsam Kartumarhati. So the meaning is the physician has to be Smritiman, and then he has to have proper yukti about the hetu. He has to be Jitatma, he has to cross his Indriya Sukha, and then he has to understand the Bhishak and Aushadha. Sorry, Bhishak can prepare Aushadha, Samyoga, and he will be able to do proper Chikitsa. So the qualities here are Smritiman, Hetayuktignya, and Jitatma. These three qualities are very important for becoming a good physician, and then only you will be able to prepare Bhishak, you will be able to prepare proper Aushadha Samyoga and then do Chikitsa properly for the benefit of the mankind. Next slide, please. So we have ended up the second chapter, that is Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya, and then we are moving on to the next topic of the day, which is Sadvirechanasatashritiyam adhyaya. That is the fourth chapter in Sutrasthana of Charaka Samhita. Next slide, please. So as we always give an introduction to the chapter, the title of the chapter here is Shat, Virechana, Shata, and Ashritiya. The split of the whole heading, the chapter name. Shat is 6. Virechana is already known, Virechana or Adho Virechana or Urdhva Virechana. Then Shata is 100. Ashritiya is where these 600 Virechana Dravyas take their place or take Ashraya into is called Shad Virechana, Shata Ashritiya Adhyaya. This whole explanation, the whole chapter will deal about this Shad Virechana, Shata Ashritiya Dravyas and concepts about related to the same thing. This chapter is also in the narration format itself, but in the last, there is some kind of discussion which happens between Atreya and Agnivesha. But majorly, this whole chapter is in the narration format. Tantra Yukti is used in the chapter is Swasanya, Samuchaya, and Yoga. Samuchaya, we have already understood that it is about grouping the dravyas or grouping anything which can be, brought down into one particular group with different characteristics, with different similar characteristics. Those things will come into Samuchaya, that is called Samuchaya. And then we have two other Tantra Yuktis utilized in this chapter, that is Swasanya. Swasanya nama ya Tantrakarehi Vyavaharartham Sanya Kriyate. Swasanya means it is like you tell and you immediately understand. You don't have to think about it much. You just name it and you'll be able to understand. We name it, you understand. You name it, we understand. That is called Swasanya. I mean, the word itself will explain it, will explain the whole meaning of it. That's called Swasanya. So, Tantrakara, whatever he wants to say, whatever he wants to communicate, he gives a specific word to it, and that's all. There is no much explanation required for that. That is called Swasanya. And then Yoga is another Tantra Yukti, the third Tantra Yukti utilized here. Yoga nama yojana vyastanam padanam ekikaranam. Say, for example, there are 4 different dravyas explained. It is a samuchaya, of course, but organizing those 4 dravyas in an order is called yoga. Okay, yoga nama yojana vyastanam padanam ekikaranam. You just combine all of those 4 words into one thing and then call it as yoga. Okay, next slide, please. So this numerical category of medicine is the first shloka which is explained in this chapter. That's the third shloka. This will also give us a brief introduction, or like it also acts as an index for the chapter. Whatever is explained in the chapter is here. Sadvirechanasata, or whatever is used as evacuatives, the 600 evacuative drugs, we can say. Sadvirechana Ashraya, where these dravyas take Ashraya, that is the plant origin. Then we have Panchakashaya Yoni, which are also called as sources of medicines. There is a plant, and it also has different organs of different parts of the plant. Every plant cannot be used with all Panchanga, all the parts of the plant. So In one plant, if the seed is the useful part, in the other plant we have root, and in some other plant we have leaves, and many things, the exudates, everything are there. So there is origin different and the source which is different. So it is different here. Virechana, Shad Virechana Ashraya, or the Dravya Ashraya is different, and Panchakashaya Yoni is different, or Dravya Yoni is different. And then we have Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpana explained, which is also about medicine preparation. Panchashat Mahakashaya, 50 groups of medicine. This is where the Samuchaya comes into existence, the Tantra Yukti called Samuchaya. Pancha Kashaya Shata is a list of medicinal herbs. There are total of Pancha Kashaya Shata, 500 herbs which are mentioned in this single chapter itself. Next slide, please. So the first topic what we saw was Shat Virechana Shata, 600 Virechana Dravyas or Virechana Yogas. Shat Virechana Shata, 600 Virechana Yogas. How does it become 600? What is the breakup of this? Then we have two different columns here which you can see. On to the left side, we have Vamaka Dravyas. In the middle row, it is Virechaka Dravyas. Vamaka Dravyas are total of 355 and Virechaka Dravyas are total of 245, which comes to the total of 600. This is a very important question for your AIAP-GT question and also a 2-mark question for your RGHS examination, because this breakup is always gotten confused by the students also, and also this is where they can catch hold of you to cut on your marks. It could be either in your Viva or in your written exams in RGHS. So next component was Shad Virechana Ashraya. So we saw these Vamaka Dravya and Virechaka Dravyas. There are total 600 and everything. Madanaphala has 133 yogas. Devadali has 39 yogas. Dhamarkava has 60 yogas. Lodhra has 16 yogas. Everything is there. But which part of Madanaphala is used? Which part of Devadali is used? Which part of Kutaja is used for Vamana? The same Aushadhi or the same herb can differ in its karma depending on the part used. The same Aushadhi, which is processed in different formats, can lead into different actions, which we see in the later part of the same chapter again. The explanation is given. So, Madanaphala, which part has to be used? Devadali, which part has to be used? All of these things the plant has its own optimum level of action in some particular part, and that will be dealt later on. But here we are just trying to tell you what are the major 6 Ashraya Sthanas of this Virechana Dravyas, that is Kshira, Mula, Tvak, Patra, Pushpa and Phala. In detail, we'll be able to see that in Kalpasthana and Siddhisthana. That is not to be worried now. The same thing is explained in much elaborate way in the later parts of Charaka Samhita itself. But here the two concepts in this particular slide is Sadvirechana Shata, the 600 evacuative yogas, and Sadvirechana Ashraya, where these 600 yogas end up in 6 Virechana Ashrayas, 600 and 6. 600 is Virechana yogas and 6 is the Ashraya of those Virechana yogas. Next slide, please. And then the next concept which is explained here is Panchakashaya Yoni. See, here Kashaya Yoni does not mean preparing Kashayas, but it means Aushadha preparation. Kashaya is referred to as Aushadha. So you can also consider it as Pancha Aushadha Yoni also. It is Madhura, Amla, Katu, Tikta, Kashaya. There is one rasa which is missed, if you can guess. It is Lavana. Lavana does not have its own, it cannot stay on its own. It does need a support of something else. Madhura Rasa can stay on its own. Madhura, Amla, Katu, Tikta, Kashaya, all of these can stay on its own. But Lavana cannot be, Lavana Pradhana Dravyas cannot be prepared into anything else, because Lavana does need the support of any other Dravya as such. So, Lavana Kashaya Yoni is not there. but other Panchakashaya Yoni is there, which has Madhura, Amla, Katu, Tikta, Kashaya. This is also a Viva question to ask you, like, why there is no Lavana Kashaya Yoni. It is the only reason being Lavana Rasa cannot be prepared into Kashaya. It has to get mixed with some other medium and then only express itself. That is the only reason why there is no Lavana Kashaya Yoni. And then we have Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpanas. This also comes under your Bhaishaja Kalpana syllabus. This Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpana, according to Charaka, here, according to Charaka, is Swarasa, Kalka, Shrita, Shita, and Fanta. You might have known all the meanings of this, but I'll just give you a brief explanation about every Kashaya Kalpana. Swarasa is Yantra Nishpiditat Dravyat Rasaha Swarasa Uchyate. You use any dravya in any format, use one yantra, you pound it properly. Nishpidana is called squeezing or pounding, and then you get some rasa, that is called swarasa. You use some yantra and pound some dravya, and the end result, what you get, is called swarasa. You filter it, and then you get swarasa out of it. And then we have kalka. Kalka is yaha pindo rasapishtanam sa kalkaha parikirtitaha. Kalka is something which once you prepare the pishta, you pound the dravya and then you get the pishta of the dravya. That pishta is called kalka. You take out the rasa out of it, and whatever is left out, no, that is called kalka. Yaha pindo, it becomes into a bolus form. Rasa pishtana, you take out the rasa and then you call that ingredient as kalka. Next one is shruta. Shruta is a synonym for kashaya. He has not used kashaya here, either maybe because we get confused when he says it is already Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpana is heading, and again he says one variety is kashaya. We get confused, so maybe that's the one reason why he does not want to mention it as kashaya, but he mentions it as shruta. Shruta is the same as kashaya, you don't have to worry about it. Explanation is vanhautu kvadhitam dravyam shrutam ahuhu chikitsakaha. You use any dravya, put some water into it, aushadha dravya, take some aushadha dravya, put some water into it, and you boil above the vanhi, above agni. You keep it on the flame and start boiling it. And once you boil, whatever the end product you get is called shruta. Okay, this is the same as kashaya, and all the ratio, proportion, everything. Please refer to Bhaishaja Kalpana textbooks or your Bhaishaja Kalpana lecturers or anything. Next, Shita is the fourth Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpana. Shita dravyad apothitat toye pratapte nishi samsthitam. Dravyad apothitat toye. You use some dravya, you take some dravya, aushadha dravya, you soak that in toya. Apothita is soaking in water. Pratapte nishi samsthitam. You use some water, put some dravya into it, soak it properly, keep it overnight. Nishi, pratapte nishi. You keep it overnight, and then that is called, for the next morning, you utilize it as shita. Okay. And here the important difference between Shita and Fanta, I'll explain to you after explaining Fanta. Fanta is Kshipta Ushnatoye Mriditam Tat Fantam Parikirtitam. Kshiptva Ushnatoye Mriditam Tat Fantam Parikirtitam. You take some dravya, put it into water, do mardana of it, you macerate it, and then that is called Fanta. So the major difference of Shita and Fanta is both of them you store it, you put it into water and store. But in Shita, you use Pratapta Toya. You can see in the shloka, it is Pratapta. It is a little bit hot water. So you take dravya, soak it, boil it for few minutes, and then store it for overnight. That's called shita. Fanta, what you do is you do not heat, but you take hot water itself, you take Ushna Toya, and then you do Kshipva, like you soak it, you put the Aushadha Dravya, do Mardana of the Dravya and water, and that you keep it overnight, and then that's called Fanta. Different, again, controversies are there, which is given by different acharyas in different formats. Whatever is again, considering the yukti and rogibala, rogabala, desha, matra, kala, everything, considering all of these things, you will be able to decide what format of aushadha has to be used, which acharya you have to uh, follow. So next is strength is more in Swarasa and decreases until Fanta. So Swarasa has the highest strength of Aushadha, and then because it is, you do not mix any water to it. So you just pound it, and the rasa, whatever is extracted from Dravya itself is Swarasa. So that's very strong. And then Kalka, Shruta, Shita, Fanta. Fanta is just like you do not do anything. You take some hot water, put some Aushadha into it, macerate it a little bit, keep it overnight, and then utilize it in the morning. So this has very less strength. So this is also this should be used according to Vyadhi Bala and Atura Bala, as I said. This is the only reason why all forms are not useful everywhere in every single condition for every single patient, because there might be Vyadhi Bala may be strong, but Atura Bala may be less, or Atura Bala is very strong and Vyadhi Bala is very less. So it is depending on the yukti of the Vaidya on which kind of Kashaya Kalpana has to be used for which patient, considering Vyadhi Bala and Atura Bala. This has been explained by our Acharya Atreya. Next slide, please. So, before I explain to you about Panchashat Mahakashaya, this Mahakashayas, every Mahakashaya has 10 dravyas which are listed after this. If you have the Charaka Samhita in front of you, you can open shloka number 9 of Sutra Samhita, 4th chapter, Sadvirechanasatashritiyam. 9th shloka, it starts from Tadyatha Jivaka Risabhakavu Meda Mahameda Kakoli Kshira Kakoli Mudgaparni Mashaparni Jivanti Madhukamiti Dashemani Jivaniyani Bhavanti. So after explaining the 10 dravyas which are Jivaniya, what he says is Dashemani. So this Panchashat Mahakashaya is also known by the name Dashemani Ganas. This is also your IAPCT question or your 2-mark question for your RGHS examination. They can ask like, mention the Varnya Dashemani Gana, and then you cannot just get confused of, oh my God, what is this? No. Panchashat Mahakashaya or Mahakashayas or Dashemani Ganas, everything are the same. It's just the synonyms, because it is easy for us to remember when we have synonyms. Okay. So Panchashat Mahakashaya, every single Mahakashaya Gana, whatever we see, 50 Mahakashaya Ganas are there. All 50 Mahakashaya Ganas have 10 drugs in each. There is repetition. We'll talk about it later. There can be repetition of Dravya, but that's okay. Jivaniya Gana can also have dravyas which can come in Balya also, which can come in Brahmaniya also, which can also come in Shukra Shodhana also or Shukra Janana also. I mean, I'm just giving you example, it need not be the same. So what happens is, every single Mahakashaya will have 10 dravyas explained, and that is very important. So that is why it is called Dashemani Ganas synonym. Remember this. This could also be your Viva question to just confuse you in between. And they can also ask you like, is Mahakashayas and Dashemani Ganas same? you have to say yes because it's the same. Okay, so I'll not be reading out every single dravya of every Mahakashaya. It will take like almost 1 hour again for that. We do not want to end up there. But you can by heart whatever is required. It is better if you by heart every single Mahakashaya shlokas, because whenever you see any medicine, any Aushadha yoga or whatever it is, if you know the ganas, Jivaniya Gana, Brahmaniya Gana, Lekhaniya Gana dravyas with Gana names, you'll be able to remember them in a easier way, because you know, okay, there are like, for example, I'm telling you, say for example, a yoga contains about 20 dravyas, and all the 20 dravyas are there in, say, any two ganas of the Panchashat Mahakashaya ganas. Maybe it's Bhedaniya and Dipaniya dravyas, which are used in one particular yoga, for example. When you know the list of Bhedaniya and Dipaniya ganas, and you look at the list of the ingredients in any particular yoga, you can surely come to a conclusion that, okay, this yoga contains all the dravyas from Bhedaniya and Dipaniya gana. It is easy for you to remember. This is why I told you to by heart or remember all the dravyas from all Panchashat Mahakashaya ganas. If not possible, try to by heart any few of it, which is easy to remember first initially, and then try including one single Mahakashaya Gana every single day or as and when you feel comfortable. Because on a long run, even both for your academics and also for your practice, this Mahakashaya Gana is very, very, very important. Next slide, please. So there are two slides which were there. It is just listed. It is all about the list of Mahakashaya Gana names. Chardi Nigrahana, Trishna Nigrahana. It's the group of Aushadha Dravyas which have similar karma of doing this actions here. So you have also seen that in one line there are 3, and in the next line you have 5 lists. In the next line you have 5 again, you have 5, and then you have 5. Same thing. It's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why? It is because they have made it into again groups. So 10 dravyas into one Mahakashaya Gana, and all of these Mahakashaya Ganas with similar actions or with similar dhatu or with similar srotas involvement or with similar actions involved or with similar targets involved, what they have done is they have again grouped these into one category. So you see there is Chardi Nigrahana, Trishna Nigrahana, Hikka Nigrahana. So Nigrahana of Chardi, Trishna and Hikka is happening with a few drugs, and all of these things happen and they have just grouped into one. And then you have the next line. When you see it is Purisha Sangrahaniya, Purisha Virechaniya, Mutra Sangrahaniya, Mutra Virechaniya, and Mutra Virechaniya. So Purisha and Mutra, they have categorized into one particular group. And then you have Kasahara, Shwasahara, Shotahara, Jwarahara, and Shramahara. All of these things are either it has similar rhyme, or it has similar actions, or it has similar words in the name. So they have just grouped it into one particular category. So this is also one tip that you can use to by heart all of these Panchashat Mahakashaya Ganas. Next slide, please. We have almost come to the end of this chapter now. So now we saw that in this Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya, we saw there was a few explanation about Panchakarma, Panchakarma Upayogi Dravya, and then we saw specific yavagus which are utilized, which are prepared utilizing particular Aushadha Dravyas. It isn't just giving us hints, right? There is no there is no complete explanation about it, right? Even here, when we see they have so many Mahakashayas, so many like Ashraya Dravyas and everything, Sadvirechana Ashraya and Sadvirechana yogas, and everything is there. They have explained about how many 600 yogas are there. Madanaphala has this, and Saptala Shankini, Snuhi, Lodhra, everything is explained. But it is all just mentioned. The topics are just mentioned here. It is not explained in detail, right? So the reason why they have given in brief, or they have just mentioned, is explained in this particular shloka, which happens to be shloka number 20. Shloka number 20 in the 4th chapter of Sutrasthana, Sadvirechanasatashritiyam. The author explains why this kind of brief mentioning about everything is done. Okay, so that is called Madhyama Marga Upadesha. They're not explaining too much, nor they're explaining too less, but they're just giving you they're just dropping hints kind. So they have explained why they have used this Madhyama Marga Upadesha. Okay, so there are 4 points here to consider. First one, there is no limit for expansion. So not too brief to understand the Samhita will with people of Alpa Buddhi. So Alpa Buddhi people, for Alpa Buddhi people itself, what they have done is there is no limit for expansion is what the author says, not too brief to understand the Samhita with people of Alpa Buddhi. If there is a person who has Alpa Buddhi, they cannot understand the Samhita, though it can be explained to a vast level. A person with Alpa Buddhi cannot understand even if a lot of explanation is given. That's also one reason why there is brief uh, brief explanation about everything. So thus everything explained here is nati sankshepana anati vistarena. Na ati sankshepana, it is not too brief, and na ati vistarena, it is not too what do you say, very elaborate. So Alpa Buddhi person need not understand anything because he already has Alpa Buddhi. Even if you explain too much, it's too much for them. Even if you just keep mentioning the topics, it is not sufficient for them. So they have just explained very limited. And then this is sufficient for Alpa Buddhi to practice. Any person who has Alpa Buddhi, if he wants to practice Ayurveda, for that person, all of these things are very sufficient. If he follows whatever is explained here, it is more than sufficient for him to practice successfully. But one who is having buddhi and who is having yukti kushalatva, for him, those which are hidden can also be understood. So, as I was telling you, there were explanations about Yavagu. In this chapter, there are explanation about so many Mahakashaya Ganas. So, if these Mahakashaya Ganas, if they can be combined, right? If Deepana, sorry, yeah. So if there is a patient who comes to you with constipation and loss of appetite, you would not explain to them two different aushadhis, right? You need not explain you did not prescribe two different aushadhis. One is Bhedaniya and the other one is Dipaniya. You don't have to do that. You can combine both the dravyas which are in Bhedaniya, which are in Dipaniya, and then make a yoga out of it, prepare an aushadha out of it, and then prescribe it. Why can this be possible? This freedom is already given here. This is the very important shloka which explains one who is having buddhi and yukti kushalatva, utilizing the intelligence and utilizing the sources, utilizing the resources, with considering the desha, matra, and kala, a person can understand many things, though it is not explained here in the Samhita. So he says those which are hidden can also be understood by a person who has buddhi and yukti kushalatva. This is very, very important. This is almost like giving any Ayurveda Vaidya a back support. Like, okay, you go and do whatever you want to do. I'm there behind you. You do whatever you want to do. You have complete freedom here. You don't have to stick to whatever I have told you. And this kind of moral support or this kind of advices by our Acharya Charaka and Agnivesha and Atreya has been repeated in all through Charaka Samhita in so many places. As in, when you start reading about Charaka Samhita, this is very important for you to note down wherein all this kind of shloka has been repeated, and you will see repetitions of the same concept. He always keeps telling the same thing and same thing and same thing. It because it is very difficult for you to understand that freedom is given to you, because when he says so many things in list manner, like he's explaining to you everything and everything and everything, narration is keep on happening, there are discussions happening all through the Charaka Samhita. You study and study and study, and when you see so many people discussing about the same thing, you also tend to do the same thing. You also feel like, okay, they have told this, let me do this. No, our Acharya does not want us to become an Alpa Buddhi Vaidya. He always wants us to become a Yukti Kushalatva and Buddhivanta Vaidya. So he says, you do whatever you want to do, understand whatever is hidden also in between the shlokas, apply, use your application, use your Yukti, and start prescribing. So I was telling you about Punarukta Dravya. Here, Agnivesha has observed that when his guru Atreya explained about the Panchashat Kashaya Mahakashaya Ganas, he observed that the number of 500 Kashaya does not justify, as there are so many repeated dravyas. So when you see, there are so many repetitions. Vamanopaga Dravya is also Ela, and Chardini Grahana Dravya is also Ela or Yasti Madhu. So how does it happen? There is repetition here. And so Agnivesha says, no, Guru, you are wrong. See, there are repetitions, and so it cannot account to 500. It will be much lesser, is what Agnivesha says. But what is the reply which Atreya gives is very, very important. It is a major eye-opening concept here. Every Aushadha Dravya will have different karma when there is different Kartru, Karana, and Karya involved. There is not a single dravya which possesses all qualities, so that we do not have to know about so many dravyas. He says, yes, it is Ela, it is Yashtimadhu, it is the same Kakoli, Ksira Kakoli, Meda, Mahameda, Shaliparni, Prishnaparni, Dashamula. Yes, it is all the same repetitions, whatever has happened all through this list, what I have given you. But every Aushadha Dravya will have a different karma to do when there is different kartru, like the person who is using it or the Aushadha format in which you have processed it, the karana or how it is being utilized or how it is being administered, and the karya, what happens inside the body after the Aushadha Dravya enters. So three different parameters here, Kartru, Karana, and Karya, and multiple different outcomes, different karmas. So that is why we see same dravya in multiple yogas, same dravya doing multiple karmas. It is all dependent on the Kartru, Karana, and Karya. Okay. There is not a single dravya which possesses all qualities, so that we don't have to know about so many other dravyas. I mean, Atreya was also so sarcastic here. He says, yes, my dear student, I have explained to you so many concepts, so many dravyas in this chapter itself. But if only we had one single dravya which could do all of this karma, we need not have to study all of this. Why are you worried? Because we don't have any one single dravya like that, we have to study everything. If it was there, I would have told you. But because it is not there, I'm not telling you. Another shloka which has to be remembered here is Yadi hasti tadanyatra yanya hasti na tatkvachit. The same thing can be explained here. If it is mentioned here, it is there. But if it is not mentioned here, you don't have to worry about it. Same thing here. There is not single dravya which can possess all of these qualities and which can do all karmas with only one single dravya. Because we do not have such one single dravya, we have to study all of these dravyas and you don't have to worry. Next, next slide, please. Tatra Shloka, 600 Virechana yogas are there, 6 Ashraya of the Aushadha Dravyas are there, like Phala, Mula, Tvak, Kshira, etc. Lavana Varjita Panchakashaya Yoni is there, a major concept to remember, why there is no Lavana in Panchakashaya Yoni. And then we have Panchavidha Kashaya Kalpana, Swarasa, Kalka, Kwatha, Swarasa, Kalka, Shrita, Shita, and Fanta. Panchashat Mahakashaya Ganas, starting from Jivaniya Brahmaniya to ending until Prajasthapana Ganas. And then we have 500 Aushadha Dravyas, which are mentioned in the whole chapter, which are repeated, of course, but you will be able to see there that one dravya has different karmas and one karma can be attained by different dravyas. Again, author does not miss an opportunity to say qualities of a good physician. He says, तेषां कर्मसु बाह्येषु योगम् आभ्यन्तरेषु च संयोगं च प्रयोगं च यो वेद स भिषग्वरः. I mean, he uses a beautiful word here, bhishagvaraha. Vara is the utmost, the superlative degree of a bhishak, like the ultimate physician is called as bhishagvaraha. So if you want to become a bhishagvara, then तेषां कर्मसु बाह्येषु योगम् आभ्यन्तरेषु च संयोगं च प्रयोगं च. So see, all of these dravyas are explained. You can use it either in bahya or abhyantara yoga, either as bahya, like in external application, or internal administration. Two options are there for you utilizing all of these dravyas explained in this chapter, Sadvirechanasatashritiyam. You take any gana, utilize it either if you want to use it as an external application like a lepa, like a taila, prepare and taila and give it for external application, or prepare any aushadha out of it like kalka, shrita, shita, fanta, prepare any gutika, anything, prepare any takra, prepare any avagu, any format of anything which can be taken internally. Prepare either a bahyopayogi aushadha or abhyantaropayogi aushadha. Make a proper combination, samyoga out of it, and then do prayoga of it, and then administer. Prayoga does not mean experiment here. Prayoga is to use, administer. So any person who understands the karma of all of these dravyas and is able to formulate any bahyopayogi or abhyantaropayogi aushadhas and then uses it, that person is called a bhishak vara, the ultimate, the bhishak who wants to become has to possess all of these qualities, because that much freedom is given by our acharya Charaka and Acharya Atreya here, Rishi Atreya. This is all about the chapter of Sadvirechanasatashritiyam and Apamargatanduliyam adhyaya of today's second day session through PRAGNAVARADHI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for this beautiful session. Everything was very clear and very neatly explained. I would like to thank you from our team Panchajanya, and we'll be waiting for your next session tomorrow, ma'am. So viewers,
Yeah,
do
so
join tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
for tomorrow's session, it is Matra Shitiya and Tasya Shitiya. They're very huge chapters and mostly practical oriented chapters. So we'll meet tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. We'll conclude the session.
Thank you. Thank you.